So are there any questions from your discussions at lunchtime? Anything at all? Okay. You all must be clear about everything. So I've asked you questions to be able to answer. Nothing on Zoom? Nobody there in the chat box got questions? Yes, okay, good, go. Whatever. Okay. Oh, got one on Zoom as well. It's Robert. Hi, Robert.
Robert, please go ahead
and
and
Alona.
unmute.
Two people, Alona as well. So go, Robert. Talk.
Okay. Yesterday you mentioned that karma does not ripen in a lifetime. Is that correct?
But unless very, very powerful, either negative or positive actions, like, you know, maybe killing, when it's very close connection, let's say you murder your mother or something, it could ripen in that life. Somebody very close, intense, very powerful, particular negative karma or positive. They say like that. That's what they say.
So most of the ripening that we're experiencing are from past,
That's
not
exactly
present. Okay.
No, that's right. So the way to say it is, it's sort of like you come into this birth, at the time of conception, all the seeds, I mean, there are trillions of karmic seeds in our mind from countless past lives, but just some of those were triggered at the time of our past death that would then fit with this particular, so the one of the human body, and then you've got all these karmic seeds that would that are the personality of Robert, the experience Robert will have, and particular people you have them with, and the particular environmental karma. You've got trillions of other karmas, but they just stay latent. So a particular group of them, and as soon as you hit the womb of your mother, the time of conception, those seeds are all there. From that second, they start ripening. They start ripening. Do you understand? So and if you left them alone, if you never, you know, that's what we tend to do. We wake up in this life, let's say, with a tendency to kill. That's what this example I gave yesterday about the boy who was a fisherman, right? And because of the strong karma of the past having killed, as soon as he met fishing, the intense feeling arose of great pleasure that indicated the extent of his past habit to kill, and then attachment kicked in that kind of painted a really delicious picture of it. And then, of course, he continued to follow that for the rest of his life, never questioning. So, do you understand? So every second every second, all those seeds that ripen every day, the seeds that ripen every day, good or bad, as happy, sad, good life, bad life, pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings, getting sick, people giving you a gift, all of these things are past
seeds that are there, and that the conditions of the happening today are the conditions that enable it to ripen. So then the fisherman one is such an example. If we just followed what's in our mind, which is what mostly we do, oh, I'm this kind of person, I just want to kill every day, so it must be okay. We don't question it, or we might know it's not good, but the habit is so strong, we keep following it. So this is the idea. Everything, all the karmic seeds are there, and that's why living in vows of not killing, not stealing, not lying, they put atomic bombs under those tendencies. And let's say in 5 years' time, there's a karma that would ripen as you being killed. By you living in vows now, you put atomic bombs under that and you can avert it. It'll change, you know. In other words, there are seeds in the ground, and if you just let them all grow, they'll do their thing. But if you put fertilizer on and you do the weeding, things change. It's a bit like that. Do you understand me?
Yes. Very clear.
It's more complicated, but that's the idea. And that's why we have to have some level of insight and recognition of what a negative action is and what a positive action is. And you see you have this strong tendency to lie or steal, and it's hard to go against these tendencies. I mean, you know, these are very strong tendencies we have, not even if we're not even necessarily, you know, we're not even necessarily like a murderer. Just the tendency to eat food, the tendency to be attached to sex, the tendency to be attached to money or to lie. These habits are very deep in us. So it's really a struggle to observe it, make the decision that they're not valid because you don't want to suffer, and to try to change them. And that's what practice is. It's quite difficult when the habits are strong. Do you understand me?
Yes.
Okay, good one.
Thank you.
Yeah. Who else was there? Alona had a question, I think, didn't you, Alona? No, sweetheart? Alona. Yes, darling. Talk to me.
Hi, Venerable. Thank you for your teachings.
Good, sweetheart. Happy.
I have a question about that vows related to Mother Tantra, if it's okay.
To what?
Vows related to Mother Tantra.
Tantric vows.
Yeah, Mother Tantra vows.
No, I don't want to discuss those here. It's not relevant.
Okay.
Okay. Only for people
Okay.
who have those vows. It's not appropriate.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Anything else? Anybody? Anything else? Questions? So then, if not, so let's look at this whole thing of, you know, how our delusions, how attachment and fears mess our compassion. And I think this is a really crucial point. We don't think this way. I don't think we think this way in our culture. In other words, you know, to understand, and you get this right at the beginning when you're studying the teachings on the mind in the middle scope, when you learn about the mind, you learn about the delusions, you learn there are virtues and delusions, and they're completely different. But even that is unusual for us because we all know we recognize words like attachment and anger, jealousy and love and kindness. We recognize these words. They're very simple. You know, these are simple words we all understand. But I think but in our culture, we totally give them equal status as normal parts of a normal person. Okay, if they're extreme, like you really want to kill 27 people every day, then we think you're weird. But the tendency to want to, you know, kill the cockroaches or kill the rats, we don't consider that bad. We think, well, that's good because they're just creatures. And if you're certainly, you know, they haven't got a soul, we don't even consider it to be so bad. In fact, we consider it to be good because they're poison. I mean, they're dirty and everything, and they cause us suffering. But what I'm saying is that the other ones, just like jealousy and attachment, ordinary qualities that everybody has to one degree or another, there's no view, I think, in our psychological models that you can rid yourself totally of these. That sounds weird to us, completely strange, you know. So it's shocking to hear the Buddha's view that he has discovered from his own direct experience that these states of mind can be utterly removed from the mind. In fact, that sounds so puzzling. First of all, it sounds weird. We can't imagine a person with no attachment or no anger. We can't imagine that. I mean, so for example, the Dalai Lama, everybody says he's a Buddha. And that if he's a Buddha, forget, I mean, even just to be a reasonable bodhisattva, forget Buddha. You can't even imagine a person with those qualities. But if he is a Buddha, then it's necessarily absolutely means there's not one tiny fraction of ego grasping, attachment, or any of the delusions. It's simply not possible, which means he's got a totally perfect mind. Not to mention he's totally clairvoyant, sees countless lives in the future and the past, knows everybody's mind perfectly, and is manifesting his mind in countless bodies simultaneously every day. I mean, that's like science fiction. But to have no delusions, that we can't imagine. So that's why the Dalai Lama, he always acts like an ordinary person. You know, he tries to act ordinary. And he would always say, oh, I got angry, yes, I got annoyed, you know. But I mean, it's like a joke. If he's a Buddha, he couldn't possibly have gotten angry. It's not possible. That is hard for us to imagine because we consider them normal parts of a healthy person. So then because of that, we don't have a view of what goes on in our mind being the cause of suffering or the cause of happiness. That's Buddha's key point. Buddha's key point is the main source of our suffering is not the terrible things out there, is not the torture that someone's doing to me. Is the main cause of my happiness is not all the marvelous things happening out there. This is a very hard thing to hear. He's not saying they don't play a role. Of course, they're all fruit of past karma, and they're the conditions in which he lived. Of course, they play a role. But his key point, his essential point throughout the entirety of his methods from beginning to Buddhahood, is that the delusions are the main cause, and that he has found they're adventitious. They have no basis in reality, and can be removed from the mind. So this is really a powerful, powerful concept. You know. We can't hear it properly. So therefore, because we don't have this view that there are some states of mind, we sort of vaguely do have some states of mind that cause us suffering. When we then have compassion and love and kindness, we don't have the view that they're limited by your own attachment and your anger and your depression and your jealousy. I think we sort of understand it. If you can see a person who's very, very depressed, in the way we understand it, we can see without being rude, they're utterly absorbed in themselves. It's really obvious. And that person has therefore very limited ability to be a benefit to others. I think we can see that, but we don't quite join the dots, you know. So the whole point in the Buddhist practice, Buddhist levels of practice, the first stages of practice are all about first harnessing your body and speech, then harnessing your mind. And what that means specifically is stop doing actions driven by delusions and then eventually stop the delusions. That's the main emphasis in the first and second scopes of practice. There's no talk of loving and being compassionate and, you know, there's no talk about that. That comes in the bodhisattva path. It's refraining from harming, playing safe, be cautious, control your body, control your speech, control your mind. This is a method. If you only did that, went that far, that's the wisdom wing. If you're on the Theravadan path, that's the work you do, then you would add to this getting shamatha, and then you would realize emptiness, and then you would achieve your own nirvana, and then you would have cut all the delusions and all the suffering of your own, and then one life or other, and when you die, you wouldn't come back. You disappear into a puff of smoke, you know? That's the wisdom wing. So we're doing it on the Mahayana path in the framework of developing bodhicitta and becoming a Buddha, you know? So we might do all these different practices every day, all on the same day, but in terms of where they belong in the teachings, one is junior school, one is high school, and compassion is university. So I like to use those terms. So you can locate where these teachings belong. So if we're trying to cultivate, you know, equanimity, love, compassion, the techniques on the compassion wing that culminate in this amazing bodhicitta, literally what's holding us back from developing these to any degree at all is the presence in our mind of attachment and aversion and all the other dramas. That's quite literal, you know. So they have two functions. They function to make me miserable. They have function, those neuroses cause me suffering. But this is the point about the wisdom, what we talked before. They also blind me from seeing what's true. So in the simplest sense, being an ordinary person with attachment and aversion, but also love and compassion, and you've got your little doggy and your doggy's suffering, and you see the suffering and you do have compassion, but your compassion is poisoned by the attachment. So one thing to look at, and it's hard to see this, we don't want to admit to it, you know, attachment only wants everything to be lovely, only can cope with things being nice. It's like a fragile child. And the millisecond you see bad things, but including the suffering of your dog, then you're going to have aversion, which brings either a panic attack or, you know, or aversion. Of course, it also triggers compassion, but we can't see the difference between the compassion and the aversion, but they're completely different states of mind. In other words, by the time you get to being a bodhisattva, when you've gone beyond the delusions, seeing suffering doesn't freak you out, doesn't make you upset, doesn't give you panic attacks, doesn't make you angry. It gives you more energy to continue to never give up, practicing even more compassion. You would never give up. That's why these bodhisattvas are such courageous people. This is hard to imagine in our culture. So we have to know what we can cope with. This is why when you heard about, you know, during the times of COVID, and for the people in the hospitals working, many killed themselves because the suffering was so unbearable. So that's not because of their compassion. It's because of their attachment and their aversion and their despair because of that, because they couldn't make it all better. That's what causes us so much pain sometimes. Because attachment wants to make it all lovely. Attachments are frantic to make everything nice because we just can't cope with ugly things. It's the only way to say it. It's not criticizing us. It's pointing out why we are suffering and why we can't see reality. We can't see things clearly. So simply having no clairvoyance, I mean, that's a bit abstract for us in the modern world, but this is very real for the Buddha. Not having the clairvoyance to see the minds of others, knowing their karma. And this is to know how to help. Buddha even says in the teachings that you really can't begin to help others until you have clairvoyance that enables you to see their minds and their past karma. It's like the most powerful wisdom, before you realize emptiness even, to be able to see their minds, see their past, you'll know exactly how to help them. So we're kind of running around blind most of the time. That's why we make a mess so often, because our compassion is driven by attachment. We don't realize. So attachment causes us to have fear and panic and despair or anger when we see suffering. The compassion's there. It's there, it's true, but it's limited by this other stuff. And the attachment to the delusions is where the word wisdom wing comes in. They also have the function of blinding us, of preventing us from seeing things clearly. We see everything through the lenses of our own attachment and dramas, so we can't see things clearly. That's why it's called wisdom teachings, you know. And the whole idea of having wisdom is, I find it's a very good example, very simple concept. Let's say, you know, let's say Lou is a genius doctor. He knows all about surgery and how to fix people's broken bones. He's got his real skill. You know, to say that. And if he's a good doctor, he ought to be driven by compassion as well. We know that. So he decides to go off and go to the war zones, and he joins up with the Doctors Sans Frontières. What do you call it? Doctors Without Borders, right? You understand? Now, he's got compassion and he's got wisdom of how to heal people, right? And I think, oh, I'll come with you, Lou. I'll see if I can help as well. And I wouldn't know how to do it. Maybe I can give a Band-Aid. What else do I know? Do you understand me? So we go to the tent in the war zone and we see all these people crying in agony and, you know, screaming and crying and blood everywhere and broken bones. Well, first of all, this is the point. He has got compassion and I've got compassion. Maybe my compassion is even more than his. Let's pretend. But I have zero wisdom. So all I see is this drama and I don't know. This is the point about no wisdom. I don't know how to help it. I don't know how to help. So I panic attack. Not to mention faint when you see the blood. But he has got the methods. So he barges in. He's not put off by all the dramas because he knows how to help this one. He knows how to help that one. That's what wisdom gives you, courage and strength. You see my point? It's practical. It's not some abstract idea, wisdom. And that in this context means seeing people's minds based upon knowing your mind. So if you had wisdom, as well as compassion for your alcoholic brother, you would see crystal clear he is not ready for advice. There's no point in wasting your speech. There's no what you see immediately. He's so overwhelmed by his own suffering. He doesn't have any interest in fixing himself yet. He's not ready for it. You'd see that evidently. So you wouldn't shove AA on him. You'd leave him alone. You'd love him for who he is. You'd mind your own business. And you wouldn't ever invite him for home because he vomits in the soup and upsets mum and dad. You'd have that wisdom. He wouldn't be sentimental. You'd be very clear, grounded. You'd love him for who he is. You wouldn't give him advice. You'd know he's not ready. That's simple, practical wisdom that comes from not having too much attachment. Do you understand, people? That's what, the classic example is your mum. I mean, mothers that kind of have this demented love and compassion, but also they're driven by their demented attachment. I'm not being rude unless you advance and practice. So you stick your nose in everywhere with your children, even when they're 97, you know. I know sometimes at teachings, mothers, you know, what do I do about my son, my boy, you know, he doesn't do this, he lives at home, he doesn't do that, he doesn't do this, and he doesn't do the dishes, and he's hopeless, got no, and I say, and I'm imagining he's 10 years old, he's bloody 47 or something. And I mean, mothers talk like he's a 4-year-old boy, you know. I think, God almighty, he's not the problem, you're the one with the problem. Bloody will throw him out, you know. I mean, it's so common. Oh, no, I don't want to upset him. You say, mothers, thinking being so noble. It's ridiculous. That's attachment. Anyway, I'm sure we understand all this. So we've got to keep working on our own minds. And again, the same with Lou. The degree of his wisdom equals his ability to help. So compassion is the wish to help, but it's wisdom that enables you to know how. That's the point to keep getting. And wisdom we're talking here is the wisdom that comes to you from less attachment, less delusions, less neuroses. That's the real point. They give you courage and strength and ground you. Then your wisdom can grow properly, you know. Such a big point. This is massive in the Buddhist psychological model. So important. For compassion, we can't, and that's the thing about, because we can't fix things. You can't go to fix things in Ukraine. You can go to Gaza and fix things, go to Ukraine. We know we can't. So we either, it's depending on your personality, isn't it? When you read about it and see it, you either get angry and you want to go and bomb them all, you know, and that's what motivates often political activity. That's what motivated me as a political activist, angry. You know, I saw the suffering, I saw the racism, or whatever, the poverty, you know, the poverty, the racism, the sexism, whatever, that drove me into political activity. But of course, I was also motivated by compassion, there's no doubt. But it was poisoned by the attachment to the anger, you know. And that's what happens as well. You see it, you know, like you know, the Me Too thing. That's the latest round. I'm not being sarcastic. It's, you know, of the feminist one, the one of all those, what at the time when you Wall Street, camping out on Wall Street, what do we call all that? All that stuff, you know? You know what I'm talking about? That all these movements, different movements. Every generation we have all these movements of political activity. Of course, when you're young, you think it's the first time in the planet, and you're the one who's discovered reality, and you're the one who's discovered liberation. And now we're really, the whole world is changing. I know when I was a political activist, you really believe everything's changing, the world's becoming a better place. And I look at it again now, I think nothing's changed, you know. Maybe women get a few more jobs now, and, you know, mightn't get raped every day. Do you understand? Bits change, but not much. Why? Because delusions haven't changed. Delusions haven't changed. And you can't make rules for those. You can't do, you know, you can't mandate changing your mind. But until the mind changes, nothing changes. You know, it's so clear. It's attachment that causes suffering. Attachment is the basis of anxiety. Attachment is the basis of anger. Attachment is the basis of depression. Attachment is the basis of low self-esteem. We've got to understand this. It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like a simple word, you know. I mean, for what attachment is in Buddhism, there are 14 different mental illnesses that we would list it as in the West. OCD, what's that? Obsessive compulsive. The mind, and we understand it exactly. That's a function of an uncontrolled attached mind. ADHD, uncontrolled attached mind. Possessiveness, attachment. Low self-esteem, attachment. Never satisfied, attachment. You know? Thinking about something all the time, obsessive, attachment. Never being satisfied, always wanting something more, attachment. Exaggerating the deliciousness, attachment. Falling in love, attachment. I mean, he just gives one word. Sounds almost too simple, but you've got to put meat on the bones. As you keep practicing, you start to observe it in this multifaceted way, you know. You can't, you read the books till the cows come home. You've got to do the work yourself. That's why Lama Yeshe said, I can tell you about attachment for a whole year and never begin to understand it until we start developing deep, or whatever words he said, building up deeply a practice internally, you know. You've got to see it internally, not with a microscope on the outside, it's the inside. So we don't have some kind of internal practice, nothing will change. Literally nothing will change, you know. So we said that, you know, we started yesterday, the compassion wing. So the main difference between these two approaches, we've got to understand it, you know. The first approach is the teachings related to your own liberation, prati moksha. And in the Lam Rim, that's the first and second, you know, the low scope and the middle scope. The first one is all about the body and basically the body and the speech. The essence of it is control your body and your speech. Live in vows, do purification, have good behavior. Vows are about the body and speech. They're not about the mind, you know. First level, the beginnings of the mind in that list of Buddha's 10 don'ts. The first 7 are the body and the speech, and then the last 3 are kind of, I like to think he's just beginning to get us to look at the mind, and he mentions the 3 poisons, but the very gross level of the 3 poisons. So they, you know, the gross level of attachment is really intense craving, like if you're a junkie, an alcoholic, and look, you can see the pain of it, you know. Your life's absolutely dominated by this unbearable craving, even just for drugs and alcohol. Look at the utter nightmare that is. You know, that's the intensity of the grossest level of attachment. Then the grossest level of anger is this terrible state of mind. It sounds so polite, ill will, malice. Anger is just, how dare you do that to me? Then you get over it, you know. But this malice, you can't let go of anger. It's kind of like it absolutely poisons your mind. And that is what makes people actually do the harm to others. That's driven by not just anger, but if it's never giving up, you know, and actually wanting people to suffer. This is the heavy duty level of anger. Then the heavy duty level of ignorance, and there's different levels of ignorance. There's maripa, the root delusion that clings to the intrinsic me. But there's other levels of this ignorance, and one is ignorance of karma, you know, or they even call it wrong view, meaning this fundamentalist view of no cause and effect. The fundamentalist view that is are all aspects of the root delusion that manifest as like fundamentalism is a really good word. Fundamentalism is the actual character of very strong ignorance. Very strong ignorance is black and white, fixed in stone. There's no nuance. There's no able to see anything from any other point of view. This is this rigid view. That's the suffering. So to try and give up that level, you know, of ignorance, try to give up the grossest level of anger, and try to give up at least refrain from the grossest level of these three poisons. That's in the very first level of practice, you know. But the main emphasis is on behavior, body and speech, you know. There's no discussion in there about meditation. There's no discussion about the delusions. It's the body and the speech, behavior. Control the servants of the mind. The servants of the mind are the body and speech that do what attachment and anger want. They harm others. That's why the main first level is don't harm others, because that's the heaviest of the negative actions. The logic is very clear. And you're the beneficiary. You are the beneficiary. And the basis, the reasoning for Buddha's instructions here is to benefit you. That's what we really miss in the West. We think that, oh, I can't just be for benefiting me. That sounds selfish. It is for benefiting oneself. Nothing to do with other sentient beings. The bottom line in the Pratimoksha is leave other people alone. Mind your own damn business. Get out of their heads. Look after yourself. Fix yourself. That's the first level. Then you go to middle scope. Now you get to the root of the problem, which is the delusions. But not the root delusion yet. It's attachment and aversion. You know, the key one is attachment. Effectively, the Four Noble Truths, Lord Buddha says that is the cause of our daily life. It's such a surprise. And if it's true, we've got to understand what he means, and we don't. We just think it means, oh, I like cake, I'm attached. How can that be the cause of all my suffering? We don't kind of dig deep into it. We absolutely have to. It's too superficial otherwise. Because if you don't have attachment, it's not possible to have anger. It is not possible to have anxiety. It is not possible to have low self-esteem. It is not possible to have aversion. It's not possible to have just depression. Impossible. They are the result of attachment. When we hear the three poisons, we see these three cute words, you know, but they've got a hierarchical relationship. Ego grasping is the root. If you didn't have that, you wouldn't have attachment. If you don't have attachment, you wouldn't have anger. So there's this hierarchical relationship, intimate, psychologically intimate relationship. You've got to feel that, taste that. We've got to know the definitions first. You've got to know what it means. You've got to know what delusion means. You've got to know what misconception means. Otherwise, just wishy-washy words. That's why Dawn's question, I was being rude to her, it's the most dumb question. I'm sorry to be rude to you, Dawn. It's the dumbest question. She's been studying and practicing for many years. I'm not trying to be rude to you, Dawn. It was the weirdest, wackiest question I've ever heard. You've got to hear that. It has no logic whatsoever. It means you don't even know what your mind is. I mean, it's not being rude to you, but this is very common. We fantasize the Dharma, make it all romantic and weird, you know? Sure, we've got different kinds of minds, you know, sure we have. So pratimoksha, my liberation. I want to get the hell out of suffering. Say it, want it, be totally inspired to want to get rid of suffering. And that means to want to be happy. We're too scared to say I want to be happy. Oh, that sounds rude. And I should be thinking of others. We're so stupid. You've got to be driven by the wish to be bloody well happy. And therefore you want to wish to, then you've got to want to give up the causes of suffering, which is your delusions. Then you'd be sincerely practicing, really fiercely like a maniac, getting rid of the revolting, painful states of mind, instead of feeling guilty, it's not my fault, it's my mother's fault, my brother's fault. Or like we think in the West, you can't change them, which is the worst view possible. individual liberation, pratimoksha. And the vows are related to that. 3 sets of vows related to the levels of practices. So the individual liberation vows are the vows of don't kill, don't steal, don't lie, don't jump on the wrong partner, don't take intoxicants. They're driven by the delusions, attachment and aversion. That's all. Control those. You are the beneficiary. Then now you've got the bodhisattva path, which is radically different. But the same insofar as you never stop working on your mind. There's no difference. You keep working on your mind. You keep lessening delusions. You do that all the way to Buddhahood. You could argue the entire path to enlightenment, the entire path from here to Buddhahood is the gradual removing of neuroses and delusions. That is the way of saying what you are doing all the way to Buddhahood. Finally, when you've achieved Buddhahood, you've removed the last dregs of delusions. There's no delusion left. All there is left is your mind. Pure, clear, radiant, blissful, enlightened, pervading the universe, seeing everything, infinite compassion. So the whole job is that's why it's so important to hear that that is who we really are. That is our true nature. This is what our potential is. Having that view keeps you sustained, keeps you stable, keeps you from going to becoming depressed and anxious. Because you know this is your amazing potential. And that's how Lama Yeshe spent all his time trying to pick us up, telling us about our pure nature, telling us this marvelous potential. So even just to read those words and hear that, we don't hear that in neuroscience. Maybe these days they say we can change our brain. Wow, good, great, we're on the right track. But having the view of what your mind, who you really are, that your true nature, actually your true nature is your mind, rid of all delusions, blissful, happy, wise, powerful, compassionate. That's who we really are. All the rest is just rubbish we've added on top, you know, and it can be removed. It's not in our nature. This is an unusual view. This is Buddha's view, you know. So knowing that, then we have some courage. Not defining ourselves in terms of our garbage, you know. I'm bad, I'm depressed, I'm no good, I'm this kind of person, I'm that kind of person. So the bodhisattva path, next level, you continue working on your mind, but now you shift the emphasis from protecting me from harming others to what best to help others, what's best to do to help others. The job is removing your delusions, but it's in reference of how to get closer to sentient beings. The first lot is to help you stop harming them. Back off and mind your own business. Now into the bodhisattva path, all the practices of trying to be more patient, more loving, more kind, more generous, more forgiving, all of these qualities. They're still you working on your mind, but the framework here is to be able to be of benefit to others. Now, not even that yet. Even now, not even that yet. That really doesn't begin. This is extreme, actually. There are vows that are called refraining from harming. That's the first level, pratimoksha. Even the bodhisattva vows, which are so tremendous, the practice of developing equanimity and love and compassion, all the vows, 18 root vows, 46 secondary vows, detailed descriptions of how to work on your mind. All of them are framed in terms of to do what's best for the other. But still, those vows are still refraining from harming. Only when you've got bodhicitta and you start the 6 perfections, now you can actually have the courage to actually do what's best to help others. That's incredible. And here we are, a bunch of peanuts, not even knowing what attachment is, running around not took to our heads off, as we say in Australia, trying to help others, and wonder why we're not successful. Here you don't begin to help others until you've got bodhicitta. It's hilarious. I mean, according to the levels of teachings, you understand the character of the teachings and the character of the vows. So they said the tantric vows, even they are too refraining from things. They're all refraining, learning to refrain, to mold your mind into the mind of an individual person who's giving up suffering, mold your mind into the mind of a bodhisattva, and then mold your mind into a great tantric yogi rooted in being a bodhisattva. Vows are just so amazing to read. The bodhisattva vows are so delicious to read. You know, they're so clear. They're all don't do this and don't do that. But the 18 root vows, the main ones, and they've got the 46 secondary vows, and they're all framed in terms of how to, they're all talking to a bodhisattva, how to develop the several related to how to get generosity, the first of the 6 perfections. The next lot to help you get morality, the second of the perfection. Each of them is a group, altogether 46, that are listed in terms of how to develop the 6 perfections. They're so skillful, you know. So we never studied them. We would never clue. Oh, I've got the bodhisattva vows. We can't even hardly mention one. I can't. I forget them. Got to read them again, you know. So the vows there are much more powerful, and they indicate you've got to have much more wisdom. In the Pratimoksha, there's no wriggle room. You just don't kill, don't steal, don't lie, because we've got no wisdom, you know. We've got to be cautious. We don't want to, it's sort of like you don't know much nutrition, and you know you've got all these diseases. You just got to be really cautious about what you eat. You play safe. Don't kill, don't steal, don't lie. There's not much wriggle room there. Monks and nuns' vows are in the same category. Nuns have 363. Monks only have 255 or something. Lord Buddha had his way. Anyway, whatever. So the thing is, in the Bodhisattva vows, so there's one vow, for example, they're very different. In the Pratimoksha, you break it just by doing it. Okay, there's a degree of breaking, you know. And breaking your vow, you've got to have intention. I will do this. No, it's a vow. Not care. I have no interest to fix it. So it's not. We don't actually break vows often. You've got to have those 4. If you do something accidentally, that's not breaking your vow. You know? So the bodhisattva is don't do this and don't do that. But now the difference, the radical difference is that it's rooted in the motivation. The motivation is what causes you to break it. So there's a vow, for example, in the grouping that enable you to practice generosity. Let's say, you know, Mary invites me for a meal, brings me up, come for lunch, Robina. And I've got no particular virtuous reason. That's the point. You'd be very conscious. There's no particular virtuous reason to say no. But usually the reason we say no is you can't be bothered, you're lazy, or you've just eaten your lunch. There's always self-centered reason. You sound polite. Oh, Mary, how kind you are. I'm so busy, darling. Well, I broke a bodhisattva vow because I prevented her from the opportunity of practicing generosity to me. So you'd say yes, and it's consciously for her benefit. You don't say it, oh, I'll go for your sake, Mary. Don't be so rude. You understand? That's how you break. We're breaking bodhisattva vows all the time. Look at us with food, you know. Mary Neil, she passes me the bread. Oh, I'm gluten-free. We don't even think about it. I broke a bodhisattva vow. I didn't accept your bloody bread. I don't have to eat the stupid thing. Thank you, Mary. I mean, we're not used to that. We're just used to doing what I want. We don't even think it's selfish. And it sounds surprising to say it is, but it is. So the whole point of every one of the bodhisattva vows is to do what's best for the other person. So at this point, you're really stretching yourself to think of the other person. That's tremendous. The Pratimoksha is for your benefit. The bodhisattva is for other people's benefit. Every vow is like that. Not as being a nice person. It's so weak and wishy-washy to think that, you know. That's why at the bodhisattva level, you also have a vow to break an earlier vow, to break a vow, whether it's for the benefit of the other person. That's super powerful. You can't play with that, you know. That's why you hear about the great bodhisattvas who've actually got bodhicitta. They happily lie, steal, kill, and rape. Now, that's too much for our poor minds in the West. We cannot cope with that. We don't believe that for 1 second. We think that's evil. You hear my point? That's in the vows, if you understand the meaning of it. And that, of course, you can't play with that. Oh, my God. Oh, I'm going to kill you, Mary, for your sake. No, please. But it's huge. The meaning is enormous. Because even the body, I mean, forget the tantric teachings, which are so esoteric. But the bodhisattva teaching, the bodhisattva path is outrageous if we really understood it. Outrageous, the teachings, unbelievable. And the courage of bodhisattvas is incredible. And all the teachings are framed like that, you know, to do what is best for the other. And that means you've got to have wisdom. Therefore, no attachment to reputation. That's huge. Not just vows to be a nice person. Forget it, you know. They're powerful. So you better learn them. I mean, there's so many good commentaries. Alex Berzon's got really nice, he's a really good teacher. He's got such clear commentaries, such clear explanation for each of the vows, exactly each time which delusions have to be present in order for you to break the vow. Very precise, you know. So you have to be aware of these things. If you don't know the vows, if you don't know the rules of how to drive a car, then you're going to be breaking it all the time and you probably kill yourself on the way. Same here, you know. We don't even know what our vows are. So the bodhisattva vows are to do what's best for the other person. Pratimoksha are for your benefit. The difference is radical. They're both called vows of refraining from harming, but the reasoning behind them is very different. So it really needs thinking. And it demands we be conscious. It does be aware of our mind, you know. At the meal, oh, I'd love some bread. Thank you, Mary. And you leave it there. I mean, the common one, and this always sounds shocking to us, if you're a really serious vegetarian, not to mention vegan, you're really strict. You will not touch meat. It's true. Wonderful. But it becomes, I think it becomes fanatic. I'm sorry to be rude. I remember one Lama, a friend of mine invited him for lunch, and she offered a meal of meat, and his attendant was with him. And the attendant said, oh, no, thank you very much. I don't eat meat. And the Geshe said, you eat that meal for the benefit of the other. We're so, oh no, there's an OXO cube in there. What do you have in this? America? In England, you have, you know, those cubes you put into soup. What do you call those? Oh no, it's, you know, we call in England they're called OXO. This company makes them. Oh no, it's got an OXO cube in it. I won't eat it. I just think it's, I mean, if you're going to die, okay. I'm sorry to be rude. It's so obsessive. I can't believe it. With respect. If you're a fanatic vegetarian. You understand? It's going to kill you. The creatures are dying anyway, you know, and probably more creatures, and I always say this, more creatures die for the bloody vegetables than they do for the meat. Maybe they don't suffer so much. Well, actually they do. We don't like to think that. We think we're so pure and holy, not touching meat, you know. Doing what's best for the other sentient being. And you can't play with that. You can't even pretend. You know, but it's really good to read the vows and to make the effort to do what's best for the other. It's huge. I mean, that's really, really huge if you have bodhisattva vows. And you've got to be conscious. You've got to know what they are and really contemplate, really meditate, and really be aware of your mind. 1,000 times a day, there's the opportunity to keep one of those vows. It's so powerful, you know? So the starting, as I said, there's two main techniques for getting bodhicitta, the next phase of practice. One is the 6 causes and 1 effect, I think they call it, or the 7 point something, I can't remember. And the other one is this more radical one, exchanging self for others. So Babonga Rinpoche in Liberation's got this nice series of 11 techniques, which is the combination of both systems, you know. So the first stages, the first few points are from the first one, and the last ones are from the exchanging self for others. But the foundation one I talked yesterday is this one called, you know, equanimity. This very clear, stable, heartfelt recognition that a friend, an enemy, and a stranger, and there really is no fourth category on this planet, because the 3 poisons in relation to sentient beings. It's such a clear method, a clear picture. Those who are friends, meaning a person who does what my attachment wants and to whom I'm attached. They're my beloveds. Then you've got the enemy, who by definition are not my beloveds. They might have been once, often are. Who proactively don't do what my attachment wants or do what my attachment doesn't want. That's the meaning of enemy. So these labels are totally related to I. And the third one is a stranger, which is 99.999% of the rest of the universe. And they are people who have neither harmed me nor helped me. So what's our response to these three groups? One is total adoration. Think of them all day and night, adore them, love them. Yeah, we fight with them too. We love them, we think about them, we look after them. It's our responsibility to take care. Children, mummies, daddies, husbands, friends, dogs, poodles, whatever. Our beloveds, you know. Then you have the enemies, and they could have been the beloveds once, we know that. We do not have love for them. We do not have compassion for them. Just in a natural way, without working on it. We have aversion for them. We have anger, and we even have the wish that they do suffer when it's really strong. You know, that's what happens in countries. Look at the anger, the loathing between groups of people. I mean, you know, the radical Palestinians, what they say, we don't care if it takes 1,000 years. We do not want one Israeli left on our earth. And the Israelis, look, they're doing it right in the face of everybody, destroying the Palestinians as quickly as possible. It's so clear it's anger. To think it's not anger is like a joke, you know. I mean, it's anger. It's as simple as that. It's this, and karmically from life after life after life. And the terrible irony is probably the Jew was a Palestinian of last life. That's the terrible irony of it. So equanimity to the aversion, the enemies. So then the third one, the stranger, what do we have for them? Total, complete indifference. They don't even enter into our radar because they've neither harmed nor helped. So this is the most natural way the world is. We consider it natural. Dogs have this, monkeys have this. We know, this is why one of the arguments to get equanimity, one of the logical arguments we have to use to get us to have equanimity, is to see that even in this life, definitely in this life, we have one person who's been all those three, very common. And what we're trying to do here is step out of our own head, get ourselves out of the equation. Because these three labels, and it's very true, they are all based on these labels are all rooted in attachment. They're all labels for people who either do what my attachment wants or don't. So they're all labels based totally, we see all these people through the lenses of my needs. If you serve my needs, you're a friend. If you actively don't, you're an enemy. And if you do neither, good or bad, I don't care about you. So, I mean, we should be blown out by the intensity of the self-centeredness of these three labels. And it's evident, even with half a brain, it's evident that they're not set in stone labels. It's so clear. You don't have to know about emptiness to know that. You know, I always joke, like, I've never heard of Lou. Mary's a friend with Lou, and she tells me about Lou. This poor bloke down the road, he's always got migraines. I don't know Lou from a bar of soap. Oh, poor Lou, he's sick. Oh, I'll change the subject. Pass the coffee, Mary. I don't care, because I don't know the man. He hasn't touched my life. And I'll try to have compassion for a minute or two, but it doesn't come naturally. And then I meet Lou. We fall in love and he moves me in. Now, suddenly, I've completely sacrificed my life for Lou, don't I? Think of Lou Day, and Robina's so compassionate. She spends her money on Lou. She gives him medicine. She looks after him. She's so kind, but rubbish. I'm attached to him now, so it suits me. It's fulfilling my purpose. I'm not being rude. And then what happens? He cheats on me and moves Mary in, so I get chucked out. Now he's in the enemy category. And I hope he has migraines. I hope he suffers, you know. So what's different? This is the whole point about equanimity. From my perspective, it's like three different people. A boring person, a divine person, and an evil person. But it's the same damn Lou. And you ask Lou, this is the point about equanimity, you ask him when he's my stranger, how does it feel to have migraines? He will say how it's unbearable. Then you ask him why he's my beloved, and he'll tell you the exact same answer. And tell him I hate him, he'll tell you the same answer. So that's the proof of equanimity. The friend, the enemy, and the stranger, from their point of view, equally don't want suffering. But we define everybody in terms of whether they're nice to me. So if I hear about Lou with his migraines again, well, I think, I hope he suffers. We all do that. We naturally, oh, Mr. Trump, I hope he suffers. We don't like him, we hope he suffers, you know. You know, like that. We all do this, but naturally, friend, enemy, stranger, the three poisons, you know, so uncomplicated. And they're totally self-centered labels. So the thing is here, because we're so used to defining people in terms of being nice or ugly or boring, the three, that's how we do it naturally all day. Then and because we have, this is the one, because we have this terrible assumption about deserve. That's a heavy duty concept in our world. Deserve, you know. So the hubris of attachment when it comes to me is I only deserve nice things. And then we get angry. What anger's saying is, how dare that happen to me? I don't deserve it. We have that view. We've made up this view. And of course, it's totally dualistic, because I deserve happiness implies someone else is supposed to give it to me. You don't look in your garden and say, I deserve flowers. Why aren't there flowers in my garden? Because you don't realize it's your garden. That's very demented, isn't it? You don't ever say, I deserve flowers. If you do, you better get them and put them yourself. We think I'm made by someone else. I didn't ask to get born, not my fault. That's how we think. So deserve is a heavy duty thing we've made up related to attachment and aversion. So when it comes to other people, and there's Lou in my enemy category today, you know, he's got migraines, and I'm supposed to try and think about him equally and think he wants to be happy. Equanimity is Lou as the enemy, and then whoever they are, you know, they equally wanting to be happy. So I'll see my friend, and I want them to be happy, mostly because they make me happy. And therefore they deserve happiness, don't they? Because they're nice to me. But Lou, of course, doesn't deserve happiness. We say, what do you mean he wants to be happy? He doesn't deserve it. We'll say that immediately. It'll be shocking to us. So our whole thing of love and compassion is rooted in deserve, and that's rooted in attachment and aversion, which is all coming from me. So it's all self-centered. It's so clear, but rooted deeply in us, you know. And the strange is kind of boring. They don't even come into our head, you know. They're just a drag. And that's 90% of the universe. So deserve has got, and the point is here, equanimity, each of these steps in these 11 techniques are very precise, very specific meaning. Each one has a specific definition. So equanimity is the bare bones, simple fact that we're trying to prove to ourselves that each of those three, enemy, friend, stranger, are equal to each other from one point of view. Just that. They equally each want to be happy. They equally each don't want suffering. And you've got to find the method to prove that to yourself. And that example of Lou is a good one. Or the other, even better one, switch it around. Now in your mind, think of the person who adores you, for whom you are the friend. Think of that person right now in front of you to the left. When they see you, they're all kind of, they think you're friend. They label you friend because you're their attachment object. Think of that. Now you've got a person in front of you who hates you. So they see you as enemy. They paint the picture of enemy. You know that. You see them with their eyes looking at you, daggers, you know. We know that experience. The third person, the stranger, they can't even look at you. You're so boring because you haven't touched their lives. So you know for one person, you're a friend. For one person, you're an enemy. For one person, you're a stranger. But you know it's ridiculous. You're just you know. They're dumping their labels on you. We know that. This is an even more powerful example. You know you're not friend or enemy or stranger in your nature. You're just Robina who doesn't want a headache and wants to be happy. That's all we're trying to prove. Everybody's like that. So nothing to do about doing. I mean, this is then the first step. And this guides us now to what we're trying to get to do is want all of them to be happy. That's love. We're nowhere near love yet. We're just recognizing they want to be happy. We're not even going to try and love them yet. That comes 3 steps on. Each step's very specific. You've got to first establish the fact. And really, it's heartfelt fact. You've got to see the logic of it. And whether or not they deserve it has got zero to do with it. It's truly got nothing to do with it. It's accepting and recognizing in their bones, whether they're a pedophile or a saint, they're driven by the wish to be happy. Everybody is driven by the wish to be happy and not suffer. And the point is, that's what determines our actions. So if it's a pedophile, they think they'll be happy by jumping on little girls. If it's mean, ugly Lou, he thinks happiness comes from chucking me out and having Mary. That's why he left me. He wants to be happy. It's sort of logical, but we can't bear to hear it. It's too painful. So simply recognizing, equanimity is recognizing the equally wishing to be happy, not suffer. That's the starting point. You can't grow from there until you get that clear. And what it does is this radical, it's a redefinition. It redefines everything for you. Because right now, the logic that ego uses, you see, love is, may you be happy. Compassion is, may you not suffer. That's the meaning. So right now, I do love and have compassion for my beloved. But it's contingent upon my attachment for them and them fulfilling my attachment. And that is just a provable fact. Look in your life, you know. Sure, mothers will put up with garbage from their sons, even if the son is horrible, they'll still love them, it's true. Few people have that. But generally speaking, you know, you don't divorce your son, you divorce your husband, you know. Chuck him out and get a new one. You can see in general, this is the world. So the normal basis for love and compassion is attachment. And then the absence of it is, you know, is because of aversion and indifference. So all we're trying to do is shift that and to get to see the simple fact that everybody's the same in wanting it. So you shift, eventually when you get to wanting to love, the third point, you know, to try and, the third point, no, the second point, like we know, is this weird thing that all beings have been my mum. It's trying to get our mind to expand enough to realize we've all had countless roles in countless lives. And the third one is to see the kindness of the mother and all beings. There's two things. And the fourth one is where you begin to get love. I must repay their kindness, you know. So step by step, each step on the way. And then eventually you get love and compassion. Further on, more. Fifth point is love and compassion. These are gradual, incremental steps psychologically to get you to the point where now when you finally get to wanting to have love for everybody, and compassion, it's now for all of them equally based upon these logical steps you've been through. So when we think of meditating on compassion and love, we think of it as kind of a gooey, sentimental thing. But it's all of these meditations are using logic to argue with ego's absurd viewpoints. So they're quite intense, you know. Equanimity, the first one, the very first one. So you're shifting your logical reason for wanting to eventually have love and compassion. It'll not just be for that group, it'll be for everybody. And the logic is why? Because guess what? Because that's what they want. That's the simple reason to love somebody. It's because they want to be happy. That's all it's coming to. You try to prove they want it, and then that becomes the basis for you wanting it for them. Whether they're kind to you or not is completely irrelevant. So if we have the view of love now, which is to love those who are kind to us, it's exhausting. You can't possibly, there's no logic to love everybody. There's no reason. There's no logic because most people aren't kind to us. So there's no logical reason to want people to be happy. This gives you the reason. It's because they want it. You know that with your mum, if she's kind, yeah, whatever makes you happy, darling, that's love. If it's driven by possessiveness and attachment, we know it's a monster. It's not love at all. It's poison. Because she wants you to do what she wants. That's what attachment is. You know, it's so manipulative. Equanimity is a starting point. The recognition that everybody wants that. And Buddha makes a big deal about this constant wish to be happy and not want suffering. And like we talked on Friday, I think, we went into detail a little bit about that state of mind called feeling, which is in that third category of states of mind, the mechanics, as I call it, the states of mind that are neither negative nor positive, but are fundamentally necessary to function as a person. So mindfulness is this ability to not forget what you're doing moment by moment. Well, if you're meditating, you need that. If you're making a cake, you need that. If you're murdering somebody, you need that. So it's not a virtue. As Lama Zopa says, thieves need mindfulness. It's a crucial thing to understand. So in that group, like we talked, there's one called feeling. And there's either pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings, or neutral feelings. That's it. You get the neutral. So so that's the point about the nature of mind. Every millisecond of all minds since the beginning of time are only wanting happy feelings and can't bear unhappy feelings. This is what drives it. It's almost like what drives the entirety of samsara. And all Buddha's doing is telling us a method of how to get happy feelings all the time and stop suffering feelings. That's all he's on about. He's found a method. So then on the compassion wing, we're continuing to develop our own potential for happiness by working in this way, but now it's in reference to how to help others because we realize we're all in the same boat. And the thing is, never forgetting too, that all this practice of helping others is a method for helping me. They even say it in about the fifth method, the fifth and sixth techniques in this gradual development of love and compassion says to think about the disadvantages to myself of being selfish. And then to think about the advantages to myself of thinking of others. They make you, those meditations, you go into these deeply. This seems to be weird to us. That sounds so selfish, we'll say. But they're being very reasonable. This logic is so reasonable. You've got, I mean, you know, you can see yourself. You look at a person who's really selfish and depressed and miserable. They're totally miserable. Nobody likes them. Nobody wants to be anywhere near them. They're a pain in the ass. You understand? So you've got to realize, look at the disadvantage to me of being self-centered. It sounds so weird. And then look at the advantages to me of being kind and compassionate to others. It's not being manipulative. It's not doing it for the wrong reasons. It's not like based on attachment. It's intelligent. So it increases your wish to want to be this way. So it's still putting the I in there because we've still got the I. But by the time you get to bodhicitta, you haven't realized emptiness yet. When you get to bodhicitta and it's stable, you've finally made that paradigm shift in your mind from all these series of works, years and years in meditation retreat, you'd accomplish all these, you know. You'd finally have the bodhicitta. You've made this paradigm shift where now only others arise in your mind. That too, in our psychological models, sounds like serious mental illness. When Lama Zopa Rinpoche was in the hospital after his stroke, you know, in Bendigo. I remember the first night after he went to the hospital, it was in a small, Bendigo's a small city, and and the centre's near a place called Eaglehawk. And there's a hospital, a Catholic hospital, like the nuns, a little hospital. So Rinpoche was rushed off there, you know. It was funny, when he went to see His Holiness, someone told me they were at the meeting, and His Holiness said, when did you first know you had the stroke? And Rinpoche laughed, and he said, when his attendant was called Sangpo, he said, when Sangpo laughed at me, because Rinpoche started slurring his words, you know, and Sangpo burst out laughing. That's how, you know, they make jokes about it. So anyway, in the hospital, Venerable Roger started videoing Rinpoche the first night in the hospital, and he'd been drugged out of his brain. And we watched this video in the evening at the center. He was in the middle of doing these big teachings, and Rinpoche sounded like a drunk, senile person, but he was laughing the whole time, laughing, you know. Nobody who's got a stroke or their friends and family laugh. So at the hospital, they thought he was kind of this weird, strange, kind of demented person. He never asked a single question about his health, never had the slightest interest in any of the methods. He never discussed it, never acknowledged for 1 second that there was anything different in his life. He was exactly the same. Now, if that's not a stable mind, I don't know what is, you know. And Venerable Roger said there was one doctor there. They all worried about him, thought he was a bit weird because he never discussed the questions, never did his exercises. And eventually, Venerable Roger said he started following on Facebook because she could really see what it was like, you know. Because it's so unusual, his behavior. That's a sign of bodhicitta. I know I told you, I think. I remember, I know I told somebody some teachings, but I know when I had to write the eulogy, I'll send that. I keep promising to do it. I'll send it with the course notes I'll send it to somebody, Lou or somebody. And and Venerable Roger, he started being his attendant in 1986. And it was very clear. He said, I didn't know what was expected of me. So I thought I'd follow Rinpoche's lead to know what he wanted me to do for him. Well, Rinpoche didn't ever show a need. He never showed any need for anything ever, ever. Never asked for a cup of tea, never asked for a meal, never went to bed, never uncrossed his legs if he wasn't walking or teaching. Whatever happened, he'd respond to it. People interrupted him in the middle of lunch, he'd talk to them. People come into the middle of the night, some lady came through the window one time in Popeye, he greeted her, hello, come and talk. He always seemed just to welcome every tiny thing that ever happened. There was never a resistance to it. So Venerable Roger's trying to work out how to do this. And that means he's never sleeping. Because Rinpoche doesn't sleep. And the typical one of Rinpoche, and Venerable Roger said this went on for years, trying to work out how to help Rinpoche. There was never a break. They didn't have a break. He never had a break. He didn't have a break. So then Roger's trying to be his attendant, and he can't keep up with this, you know. Nobody can. He has his lunch at midnight, you know, teaches till 3 in the morning unless they stop him and drag him off the throne. So literally in a mind of a person like that, you have to, this is where psychologically it's not possible to understand unless you read the teachings, read the logic, see how it is possible. Then you see an example of it and it seems like insane. You think, how can I be that way? And you can't. Not yet. You can go for it. There's never, not even, doesn't even arise. There's not even the arising. They haven't realized emptiness yet. There's not even the arising of the thought, the normal thought of I. He's not stupid. He knows his I. He doesn't know he doesn't think he's Roger or something. He doesn't get confused, you know. He knows who he is, but there's no, and that's where it's hard for us to conceptualize. There is no concept, the usual concept of I based on attachment, I based on fears, I based on anxiety, I based on being tired, I based on being sick, I wanting this and not wanting that. That's gone. So what's left is compassion. Empathy, compassion, and only thinking of others, not to mention wisdom as well. If they've got that, clairvoyance, and that's why it's exhausting to think that if you think about it, the compassion and love that they have, it's almost as impossible to say that you can't imagine a person having that level of love and compassion for you. You don't believe it, you know. Your mum maybe. When I think of the guru, I think of like Lama Zopa or somebody, to think they love me like that, only thinking about me all the time. I can't believe, we don't believe it. Our low self-esteem doesn't allow us to believe it's possible because we can't conceptualize that level of love and compassion. But it's as if for those people, it's as if every person, every dog, every ant, every bug, every pedophile, every monster, every Mr. Trump, equal exactly in their mind. Which doesn't mean, you know, if you're a regular bodhisattva who's not a monk, you might get a husband or something. Doesn't mean you're going to, oh, you might as well marry anybody. No, you marry the person you've got karma with. But it doesn't mean you particularly like them any more than anyone else, but they'd think you were totally in love with them because you would show love for them, you know. You'd have your children. You would, when you have all this love and compassion equally for everybody, it's not as if you chuck out your children and get next doors and bring them home. No, you've got a responsibility to your children, but you love the ones next door just the same. It's hard to conceptualize this. And it's also hard to think, well, why the hell should I want that kind of love? It seems too hard. You understand? It's like ridiculous. The bodhisattva path blows my mind. I can't even talk about it. It's too much. Stick to giving a bit of attachment, I think. It's hard enough job. So when you see someone like His Holiness, he seems more, I mean, he seems more reasonable. He goes to bed at night, he gets up in the morning, he acts like a normal person. Kind of like, oh, phew, that's okay, I can manage that. When you have Lama Zopa, he's too off the wall, too extreme, you know, too ridiculous. It's hard to imagine being like that. I know I'm raving on here, I'm sorry, I don't know if it's useful. Time is it? Time to go. It's time to go home. Oh no, another hour yet. So any questions, please, about anything I've been saying? I'm so sorry. I'm not being very articulate. I did my pills. It didn't help, Mary. Where are you, Nancy? As soon as I talk, all the snot comes. I can't help it. She gave me these pills. When I'm being quiet, the snot stays quiet. The mucus seems calmed down. As soon as I talk, it all comes to the surface. You know. I got my nettle tea. I thought that would help. I'll just have to go back to New York. So, any questions?
I have a question.
Go, darling.
So when I know that I have to go into a difficult situation, you know, perhaps family members or even driving down the road, if maybe.
Get closer to the microphone.
Even if okay, so if I know I have to go into a situation that may be a little bit difficult.
That with the family, That's where our troubles are, isn't it? It's always family, isn't it? Right?
So is there something like a mantra or visualization or something that I can do to help?
No, I think, of course there could be, but I really think I really think it's the method that helps is like there's levels of practice, right? And the one here is make a decision. Don't worry about your mind, but make a decision to not say one bad word. Because when they say that among the Tibetans, there's wonderful practice. When you're with others, you control your behavior. When your body and your speech, you act beautifully. When you're on your own, you can afford to do the work on your mind. So you might have anger, you might have distress in your mind. Let it be there, but control the way you present yourself. That's the answer. That's it. Don't expect too much of yourself. Just control your speech. Does that answer your point? Unless you want to say more to me about the scenario.
Well, like I'll give an example.
Okay, go on. Yeah, say close to the mic. Give us the scenario because they're all different.
Yeah, so my husband was showing me today this advertisement he created.
This what?
Advertisement he created for his work. And I looked at it and I thought, and I said, oh, I don't really like that. Well, and that offended him.
If what?
That offended him by saying I didn't like that. But if I said I like that, oh, that's great, that would have been a lie.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh no, that's not too difficult to deal with. Oh no, I see, sweetheart. Oh no. Oh no. You definitely did the wrong thing. I mean, I must be rude. Okay, it's the same with the woman on the thing earlier this morning. She has to be with her and her daughter have to be with a person that she has aversion for. She finds it difficult, but she decides to be nice to him. But then she's worried because it's not sincere. That's all you're saying. No, I don't care if you're sincere. If I ask you, do you like my dress? I want you to say yes. How rude of you to be honest. Oh no, it's ugly, Robina. Now, if you're my stylist and I need your opinion, then yes. So we need to be polite, not out of a creepy crawly way, not out of a way to make them love you, but out of just politeness and appropriate behavior. That's called kindness, darling. Well, it's nothing more dramatic. It's not as dramatic as I thought. Now that's just being kind. Oh, sweetheart, that's so good, even though you think it's rubbish. If he sincerely, but you've got to know the difference. If he really wants your sincere opinion, you'd know that and you'd have the space to give it. But clearly, he didn't want that. He just wanted you to see it. He wants to show you. He wants your approval. So give it to him, darling. You see my point? And then you practice, I mean, speaking the truth, not lying, doesn't mean speaking the truth every time. You're not lying. You're just being kind. If you are constantly trying to mislead him, that's what's behind lying. Lying is the wish to mislead somebody. You're not trying to mislead him. You're trying to be kind to him. Come on. You see my point? Perfectly fine, darling. Yeah.
Venerable, what I've heard today has made me realize that I was unkind. When my father, as you know the scenario, asked me, Mary, have you gone to church recently? And I didn't want to lie to my dad.
He wants you to go to church, does he?
Right. I mean,
He doesn't know you're a Buddhist?
No.
Oh, okay.
It would just really disturb his
He's
mind.
a Christian.
Yeah, and
Go
you know
closer to
he's
the
in
mic.
hospice and all that, and I
Closer
just
to the
didn't.
mic. Closer to the mic.
I didn't want to lie to him. And I said, no, I said, I can pray anywhere.
Okay, that's fine. So what do you say?
He was
He's
like,
okay with that?
none of you children go to church.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So see, that's okay. I mean, it's like, yeah, even that. You can kind of, see, I feel you can kind of, the meaning of his question. You know where he's coming from. So there is a way, without being blunt even, just to give an answer that suits him. There is a way. But with sincerity and not the wish to deceive. That's the thing, not the if you're caught on the spot, you've got to be quick about it. Oh, Dad, I love going to church, and you can suddenly change the subject and get him off it. You just be skillful. With yours, yes, it's wonderful. You're doing a great job. Encourage it. It's evident. You see. But even this is where wisdom comes in. You've got to be ready for it, and you've got to have the wisdom to be confident to do the right thing. And that's what's really difficult. Just to have the confidence to say the right thing, do the right thing, and be the right way. That means you've got to know your own mind well enough, and you have to have some understanding of the other person. That's not easy, I tell you. The moment we make a problem with ourselves. You understand? Yeah, I love going to church, Dad. Yeah, and God loves you, and then you change the subject. Your dad. Understand? Anyway, yeah. What else, people? Anything else, people? Questions? Okay. So there's levels of teachings. People, everything is incremental, one step at a time. It's so delicious, you know. But it's hard to see it. I know when I first heard the teaching of Lama Zopa, I had no idea what he was talking about. Hearing about this Lam Rim in order, step by step, I couldn't hear anything. I had no idea what he was talking about. The more we understand and hear the teachings and practice and listen and think about it, we can really get it down to its essence. The very first level, entry level, junior school, I call it, you know, the essence of all that first lot is impermanence, death, refuge, blah, but the essence, the culmination of the first scope, the essence, everything is leading to the point where you begin to practice abiding by the laws of karma, knowing you don't want suffering, so you stop harming others with your body and your speech. That's the essence of the first scope. Control your body and speech. Now, the essence of the second scope, the middle scope, is control your mind. That's it. That's the essence. The third scope is learn to help others. So in that sense, they're the steps of the path. Control your body and speech first. Control your mind. Help others. You're never stopping working from there all the way to Buddhahood. It is progressive. Step by step by step, psychologically logical. You know? And then what comes from the first and second scopes is wisdom, because delusions cause two things. One, you to be miserable, and two, to be as blind as a bat. When attachment's in the mind, it paints a fantasy picture. When anger's in the mind, it paints a fantasy picture. And what they both do is, what's the phrase we say? You paint the person with the one brush. So if you're attached to Lu, he will look like a divine being. You can't see anything. You're seeing your own fantasy. And then when you hate him, you're seeing another fantasy because he just stopped doing what you wanted. So now you see an ugly person. These are so clear. And this is how attachment and aversion completely destroy us. You know? We see everybody in the universe through the lenses of attachment, aversion, and indifference. And they're fantasies made up. That's why they're not valid concepts. They don't have a valid basis. And a valid concept is a thought that's in sync with the thing in front. Because every thought in the mind has to have an object. Object doesn't mean a physical thing. Mind's job is to cognize, to be aware, to know. They're synonyms. That's the job of the mind. And the job of the mind, and finally, the Buddha's saying, our mind can cognize that which exists. And that's omniscience. And that's the natural potential of a mind. So the job is to remove the delusions that prevent it, you know. So the delusions, as Lama Zopa says, cause the outside world to appear back to us incorrectly. That's literally how the delusions function. They cause pain in here, the afflictions, but this is their technical function. They're misconceptions. They're not valid cognitions. They are lies that distort whatever they're cognizing. Then we're not seeing reality. This is so clear. All the way to ignorance, the root delusion. They talk like this mainly about the root delusion. But when you hear Lama Zopa talk, he talks about this all the time. Attachment has got the same function as the root delusion insofar as it misconceives the object you're cognizing. It exaggerates. The key function of all the delusions is they exaggerate. They exaggerate. They distort. They cause the thing to appear back to you wrongly. That's why they're the cause of suffering. And when we understand that when we understand that all conceptual, even the hugely emotional ones are rooted in being a misconception. When we understand that, then we can see the logic of why you can remove them from the mind, because they're made up. They're conceptual stories made up. Conceptuality is made up. There are valid concepts, which are the virtues. There are valid concepts like cause and effect. That's a valid concept. A creator is an invalid concept, Buddha would say. No karma is an invalid concept. Attachment is an invalid concept. Anger is an invalid concept. compassion and love are valid concepts. They're all conceptual. They've got a conceptual level. And because of the misconceptions, because they're all conceptual, then that's why a misconception can be removed. And what makes it go is the recognition of the truth. If you think 1 + 1 is 3, that's a thought. It's a thought. It's a thought. It's a thought and you believe it. It's a thought and it's a misconception. We know that. And then you finally realize that actually 1 + 1 is 2, and you realize the truth. So that realizing of the truth is what annihilates the lie. That's how you get enlightened. That's how you get enlightened, by using logic and valid concepts to argue with misconceptions all the way to emptiness. To understand that, we have to understand how these delusions are, how these afflictions are delusional. It's a hugely important point. Not just feelings, you know. And virtues are valid, but they're still not totally valid. So when you've got bodhicitta and you haven't realized emptiness yet, still you've got phenomenal being. That level of compassion you have is phenomenal. Haven't realized emptiness yet. So there's still the concept of an inherent I having inherent compassion for inherent you. There's still a dualistic thing there. It's funny when you've got emptiness, you know, the dualism is ceasing. So all the bodhisattva path is, the goal of it is bodhicitta. You know, equanimity, kindness of the mother, kindness of sentient beings, wanting others to be happy, gradually love, compassion, and then great compassion, mahakaruna. The thing is, you see, compassion is may you not suffer, but this next level, which is the unique characteristic of the bodhisattva level, is like the bonus on the top. Not even quite, no, not even yet. It's the one that says, first you say, oh my God, look at that suffering. That's compassion, incredible. But the next one is the unique one of the bodhisattva. Unique says, what can I do to fix it? That's the brave attitude of the bodhisattva. And you've got to make yourself go to that one. So the Hinayana Arhat, who's given up delusions, has love, has compassion. How could you not have? They're your natural mind, but they don't have great compassion. They don't see it as their responsibility to never give up benefiting others, not being rude. So by the time they achieve nirvana in one life or other, their bliss, which is tremendous, and their bliss overrides their compassion, and they zap into bliss and don't come back. But if you're on the bodhisattva path, because you have this great compassion, that's my job. It's the job of a bodhisattva. It's my job to help others, like as if they're all your children. It's your job. You know it's your job, based on wisdom. So then, even when you maybe even realize emptiness in some life or other, and maybe even have achieved, you know, you've cut all the roots and achieved this liberation. Your wisdom and your bliss are overridden by your compassion, and you'll keep coming back, even when you don't need to. That's the point of the great compassion, and that culminates in bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is not compassion. It's the result of compassion. It's not the same as compassion. It's a different kind of mind. It's like an aspiration. It's got two parts. As a result of great compassion, and as a result, if you like, of great love, it's my job to make people happy. It's my job to stop them suffering, help them with suffering. Then bodhicitta is the culmination, and it's this one part is the shift in the mind. Only others ever arises. There's no longer the thought of I or anything for yourself, like Lama Zopa expressed it, naturally now. And the long-term one is this goal to never give up, no matter how many lifetimes you're working on your mind, practicing the 6 perfections, perfecting the compassion wing in the first 4 perfections, and then perfecting the wisdom wing in the last 2 perfections of concentration and emptiness. That's what a bodhisattva is doing, and that culminates in Buddhahood. Well, of course, you jump into the tantric path on the way, isn't it? It speeds you up. That's the entire path. All logically presented, logically, psychologically. Because the path is a psychological path. It's your mind. So this Tonglen is the key technique, isn't it? This Tonglen. Let's do the 8 verses. Let's go through these insane verses. I have a heart attack every time I speak them. They're so intense. They're so outrageous. They're so over the top. They're so ridiculous. Let's do them. This is the key practice in this series of 11, the one of Tonglen. And that's the 6th of the 7 verses. I think it must have come from this Mr. Langri Tangpa. So the first one says something like, what's the first one saying? I forget. What's the first one? Yeah, that's right. In order, they say it's in order to get the benefit from sentient beings. We all think it's a mistake and we think it should say for. No. That's this whole idea of relying upon. In order to get the benefit from all sentient beings. That first line. And that means, from means, because of these are the verses of this fanatic person who wants to get bodhicitta. All they want is to have bodhicitta. All they want, therefore, is to rip out the delusions, the self-centeredness that prevents you from having bodhicitta. Okay, I've got to say something more. The whole path, the first and second scopes, the main enemy there is attachment, okay? The main enemy is attachment. So all the practices are to lessen attachment, to subdue attachment. That's the main enemy, getting what I want. Now, in the compassion wing, the enemy is called something different. It's called selfishness, putting me first. So, of course, because of attachment, of course you put me first, but it's a different way of framing. It's a different delusion. It's a different mind. The enemy in the first and second scopes, everything is geared to subduing attachment, and therefore, of course, anger and the rest. Here, it shifts to all of these practices are to subdue the enemy called putting me first. So starting with equanimity is this gradual process that finally completes when you get bodhicitta, and now I is gone. Conventional sense of an I. It's now others. You've conquered the you've conquered they call it self-cherishing, which is a very sweet word. I remember doing a course in Milarepa Center, and it was called how to, learning about self-cherishing. And this woman who'd never been to any Dharma said, she loved the idea. I'd love to learn how to cherish myself. She got a big shock. It was a Tibetan term for selfishness. And so interesting, we love to confess to attachment, but nobody likes to confess to being selfish. I'm not selfish. We don't. It's very painful. That's all. That all the bodhisattva path is in relation to conquering that. Up to bodhicitta. It's a very different view, very different emphasis. So everything's in reference to that. So then that's why, the Tonglen is exactly finally that technique where you literally make that shift, So in Tonglen, the 8th verse, that's right, the first verse. Okay, so the first verse says, in order to get the greatest benefit from all these suffering sentient beings, I'm living in this world with piles of suffering sentient beings, let me make the most of it. That's what he's saying. That's what you're saying. I want to make the most of this. And now it says, may I bring the greatest benefit from all sentient beings who are more, as the even line is more insane, the second line, who are more, let's hear this one, who are more precious to me than a wish-fulfilling jewel. So, okay, we don't know what a bloody wish-fulfilling jewel is. But if you say there, who are more precious to me than $1 million, we'll go, excuse me. I mean, wish-fulfilling jewel, who's heard of one? Nobody. So use the language we understand. $1 million. Who are more precious. This is insanity. How can you can't get your head around that. Who are more precious to me than $1 million. These are the words. Mr. Langri Tangpa must be this insanely developed bodhisattva who's got these. This is the point when you see Lama Zopa, it's hard to believe, but they are actually like that. They actually have that view. They've developed to that level. Sentient beings are the most precious thing. So in this here, because we haven't got bodhicitta yet, these are the methods to get bodhicitta, you're trying to smash this attitude of putting me first. And you want to do that with such intensity who are more precious to me than I wish to enjoy. I will, whatever the word, I will treat them like I will treat them as most dear all the time, something like that. That's the first verse. The second verse is always the one that I say, if you gave this advice as a therapist, your client could sue you for abuse. The second one says, when you are with others, you see yourself as the lowest of all, and you see all others as superior. I mean, find other words, because I mean, even most people, we just have to find other words because it's too painful for us. In our minds, in our way of using these words, we can't hear. As soon as we hear, I will see myself as the lowest of all. If we haven't practiced much, this is the most bizarre advice, because we will say, excuse me, mate, I already do that. What do you want from me? You know? So this is why, as Venerable Robina says, these teachings, you need to hear these and practice them. You need to be a suitable vessel. In other words, to hear physics teachings, you need to be a suitable vessel. You need to have done junior school and high school and university. That's what it means. So you can't hear that unless you've done the work in the wisdom wing, unless you've really done all the work of even getting, understanding self-cherishing, understanding attachment, understanding anger. You've got to know your mind so intimately to even comprehend the meaning of that. Because we do that now when we have all this low self-esteem, and in our craving to, thank you so much, in our craving to win people over and love us, we crawl around like a, dying to be used like a doormat. That's the best, that's what we can do, that's what we do. So to hear this properly is so incredible. Because all it means is, because we know, what's all these, I don't even know who this is rubbish translation. It's horrible translation. It's got meaningless. I don't want that one. Get Lama Zopa's. Take it off. It's rubbish. Suits me. I don't know anything about Tibetan, but I know Lama Zopa's words are better. So find Lama Zopa's if you can, Shella. Excuse me. Don't speak Tibetan. What do I know? So anyway, what's wrong? Oh, it's Lou doing it, isn't it? Okay, good. Okay, get it. Fine. It doesn't matter. Anyway, it's fine. So anyway, so what am I saying here? So this one, what it means is the whole goal of these 8 verses is you trying to smash putting me first. This is the point. If you don't want to do that, well, don't do these verses, please. The only person who wants these techniques is the person who wants to achieve it. And everything is in reference to that. Of course it is. So if you see the suffering of self-centeredness, which is the fruit of attachment, then of course you want techniques, conceptual thoughts that you can meditate on that can shift your mind. Of course you do. So this one is clear because we know when we're with other people. We don't know it. You see, we've got pride, okay? These are pride. All the delusions have the job of exaggerating. That's their key function. They exaggerate. That's why they're not valid concepts. They distort. They embellish. As Lama Zopa says, they decorate on top of what is there, layers upon layers of characteristics that just aren't there. So pride, which we never like to confess to, exaggerates your own importance. So in the West, I think that's our main delusion. But we never think that because we think our main delusion is low self-esteem. Well, I'm sorry to make you miserable, but low self-esteem is the exact opposite of pride, and it exaggerates your bad qualities, and you wouldn't have it if you didn't have pride. That's a fact. That's a fact. So we all want to be the highest of all. We'd never dare confess to it. We want to be important. And when we think we're not seen as important, we are devastated and then go, oh, I'm the worst person on the planet. So we mostly live in low self-esteem because we want to be the opposite. It's too hard to hear it, but it's logical. People who don't have pride don't have low self-esteem. They have humility and self-confidence. I always remember years ago, before I was a Buddhist, I saw this show on the television, interview with two famous people. I mean, in the ballet world, there was this Margot Fontein. Anybody heard of her? You know, so Dame Margot Fontein. I know, I was in love with ballet when I was a little girl, you know. I loved ballet. And I loved Dame Margot Fontein. I saw her in Melbourne. Yeah, I saw her in Melbourne. She got about 49 curtain calls. She wasn't with Nurayef. That would have been really exciting. I never saw him. Anyway, I saw on the television an interview. And at the same time, there's another person. He's like Australia's Babe Ruth, but at cricket. His name is Don Bradman. And he was famous, like just like Babe Ruth. And what was evident to me before I was even a Buddhist, they were both the top of their field, but they were humble. That's very unusual for us. It was evident they were kind of light with their qualities. They weren't stupid. They knew they were the best, but somehow they had this quality of happily being, you know, not being very light, wearing it very lightly and praising other people, rejoicing in other people's qualities. That's humility. So a person with low self-esteem is emphasizing I'm nobody, I'm nothing, which means you think other people don't see you as I. It's either pride or low self-esteem. If you don't have an exaggerated view of your own self, you don't have low self-esteem. So with those two, I'm not saying they don't have some of it, but they had humility. But to be the best, you'd have to have self-confidence. So being humble and having self-confidence, they go together. Pride and low self-esteem go together. It's very interesting. So in a group, this is better. This is a better translation here. Show me the first one. There it goes. Here it is. Determined to obtain the greatest possible benefit from all sentient beings. Make the most of you. Living in this world of crazy people, make the most of it. Risk for your meal. Who are more precious than a wish of fulfilling jewel. I'll hold them most dear at all times. This is the right one. And the second one, that's it. When I'm with others, I'll consider by the lowest of all and the depths of my heart, others dear and supreme. So, okay, what it means is in reality, what it would mean is you're with other people, this group here, with your family, you know. Of course, this does demand that you've got some consciousness, some awareness. It demands you understand attachment, you understand the delusions, you understand your pride. It demands this. If you don't know your mind, this is useless. It's just, you'll misunderstand. You won't hear it properly. It's like you won't hear it and be stupid. So when you understand it properly, it means you're conscious enough to make yourself be thinking the others. How are you? How are you? Oh, tell me about your headache. What's this? You don't run around being like a good girl thinking they love you, but you are thinking of others. And in other words, you're not being, being self-conscious. Self-conscious sounds very sort of humble. No, you're self-conscious is because you're pride. You're stuck in yourself. A humble person is not noticing themselves. Self-conscious, or, it's not being rude now. Lou is a quiet man. He's not an angry dude. I'm a bossy, loud, shouting, bossy person, and it's easy to see pride and anger in me. Lou's real quiet, but he's got the same delusions as me. You understand my point? I mean, we're discussing it, so he's giving me permission to talk about it. But they don't show. He looks like a nice, quiet, humble person. And he probably's got all those qualities. But you see my point? A quiet, but I'm not saying he's got low self-esteem. No, I'm not saying he's self-conscious will be true. You understand? You're self-conscious. That's another version of ego. That's all it is. You understand that? You understand that? But we only think of an ego person like me who shouts and yells, or that bossy Robina, But a person who's shy and blushes when they're with other people, that's because of I. If you didn't have I, you'd be happy and relaxed with other people. So it's not being rude. Just how we are, manifest in different ways. At least Lou doesn't run around harming people, doesn't shoot out of his mouth like I do. At least a quiet person doesn't harm others. You understand? They're the same delusions, but they manifest differently. So anyway, you'd be with other people and you'd be practicing, if you're not doing it, actually practicing thinking of the other people, delighting in them. Dalai Lama even says that. And what's fascinating, I love the Dalai Lama because I'll never forget when I traveled, Lama Yeshe back in 1982 invited His Holiness to Europe. He's one of the people who invited His Holiness on this big tour of Europe. And Lama was so amazing. He invited 10 of his students, including me, I thought I'd won the lottery, to be security guards for the Dalai Lama. 5 men and 5 women. Lama was amazing, So he made us wear uniforms. We had little plaid skirts. yellow blouses, the girls, and a little maroon jacket. I had hair at that point, so I decided I'd wear lipstick as well, look like a lady, and had long, nice maroon boots. Lama said he liked me better like that. It was so funny. Anyway, the men wore these nice, they had white shirts, maroon ties, navy blazers, and grey slacks. We looked like proper ladies and gentlemen. We traveled for like 6 weeks to Italy and Spain with His Holiness, being his security guard. I mean, how he was so kind to us, you know. Anyway, what was I saying? But yeah, when I observed His Holiness up close, he's big, he's charismatic, he's powerful. So as soon as you hear humility, you think a quiet little mousy person. You don't think of a big loud person. He'd do, but I'd never forget anything like it. You saw him do press conferences. He'd walk in and he'd run the whole show. He'd tell you go there, you go there. He'd dominate the whole thing. All these cameramen and these photographers and these journalists would be like little mice. He ran the thing. He was such a big boss, you know. But everybody, and I saw it in Australia when we invited him for like 3 months in Australia. And we did a special Mandela version. And I interviewed like 50 people in Australia who'd been involved in the media, in the security guards, the police, a whole cross-section of the people who'd been involved in the Dalai Lama's tour. Everybody said the same. Everybody in Europe, you see that he's loud, he's big, he shouts, he's funny. But everybody said when you were with him, you felt you were the most important person to him naturally, you know. That he was totally interested in you. You felt that. People in tears, people moved. I'll never forget seeing this in Europe, you know, amazing. It was amazing to see it. These Catholic monks, he went to these different Catholics in Spain. One of the Carthusians who just live and pray day and night, you know. Amazing, these monks. The girls weren't allowed in, only men. Never mind, this is how it was. And they all came out, the 5 other boys who were the guards, and then Lama Yeshe, His Holiness. And you can see these monks blissing out, beaming from ear to ear. They were loving His Holiness. And these amazing conversations, apparently, about the absolute and everything. They were so happy, you know. All these people who saw him, people in tears, people who interviewed him, journalists. But you felt you were the most important. Everybody said that. Everybody said that. You can't force that, you know. And that means literally, he doesn't think of himself. And that, you know, that's literal. It's literal. It's literal. So you practice that when you're with other people. And so you'd be very natural. You just do what's best for other people. And you really think, and I mean, to say them that they're superior, that's hard for us. Because even if we think we're a creep, we think people are not as good as us. Actually, we really think we're the best. That's why we always find fault in other people. Even if you think you're the worst person on the planet, you love to criticize other people as if you're not like that. So it's very deep inside us when we're clinging to the I and cherishing the I. It's embarrassing to see it, but the depths of it are so powerful. There's a profound antidote, you know. Next one. Next one. Yeah, okay. This one seems to pop up out of, I don't know how I see the logic of this one. All the others, they seem to go in order. This one seems to come out of nowhere. The moment vigilant, okay, means you pay attention every second. The moment a delusion pops up in my mind, which endangers me and others, I will avert it without delay. So this implies a really high level of practice, doesn't it? I mean, for us, it's the opposite. The default in our mind is the delusions, and we occasionally have a virtue. So here it shows a really high level of practice. That's really intense level. That's brilliant, incredible, vigilant. You know. That's amazing. Next one. Now this lot, this one, 4, 5th, and 6th are like, I can't even say them. I hyperventilate. And each one gets worse than the other, heavier. This one, I think, my feeling is, this is relating to the world out there, distant from you. Whenever I see beings who are wicked, we don't use that word, do we? It's like that Broadway play, you know, wicked. Who are wicked in nature and overwhelmed by violent negative actions and suffering. That's what we call a psychopath, isn't it? Do you understand? We say they're a psychopath. We get that. Or a narcissist. And they say, it says here, I will hold such rare ones. Well, I'm sure in 10th century Tibet, they were probably rare. Do you understand me? But like you walk down the streets of New York, you understand? They're just your neighbors, you know. We're used to it. You understand? We're rare. What do you do? How are you going to think about these people? These are people out there who aren't close to you. You'll see my point. I'll hold such, well, never mind rare, I'll hold them dear as if I'd found a precious treasure. Again, you have to see the point. The point here is all you're trying to do is rip out self-cherishing and rip out delusions. And the only, so if you only have people around you who are lovely, if you only get everything you want, if people only adore you and give you things and love you and stroke you, you're never going to bother practicing. Why would you? So you have to have this. The bodhisattvas love problems. They just can't wait for problems. Then you're putting atomic bombs under the delusions. You act like you've found a precious treasure. This, I mean, if we can even hear some semblance of truth in this, that will transform our lives. You know, just having that attitude instead of having a panic attack. Mr. Trump, evil monster, how dare, blah, blah, screaming, shouting, yelling, wicked, wicked, blah, blah. You know, excuse me. Hear the advice. It's grist for your mill. You have compassion. Smash your self-centeredness. Next one. Gets worse. Gets closer. My feeling is this is like at work. You listen to this. Out of envy, someone at work accuses you of something. We know this one. Who mistreats you, abuse, insults, and so on. This is such a good one. What will you do? I'll accept the defeat. And see, to me, it always should say offer the victory to them, not others, to them. So this is powerful. I mean, even if we did do something wrong, we can't even take responsibility. It's too painful. So to actually take the blame, this is the heaviest, and for us that would be self-abuse, you know. And we do that, but in the totally wrong way, in an unhealthy relationship. It's repulsive, you know. They're the people, they're victims in relationships who get abused and come back for more because of the delusions, not being rude. The victim mentality is completely different. I always again tell the story. Years ago in Australia, Buddhists, as a group of people, our Buddhists had a party, and the guy who had the party was called John or something, and he told everybody how his brand new BMW had just been scratched right along the door. So he bought it and he got new doors. Then it got scratched again. And he discovered it was the wacko door, the guy next door. And he didn't know why this guy was doing it, but he seemed it was obvious he was doing it. And he said, what should I do? You know? So people just gave different solutions. Oh, well, scratch his door, sue him, whatever. And then George, a student of Lama Zopa's, said, I know what Lama Zopa would say. He would say, discover what this old guy liked. So he discovered, and then you offer him a gift and apologize for anything you've done wrong. So John thought that was great. So he did it. He discovered this old guy liked golf. He bought these beautiful fancy golf balls, wrapped them beautifully, went to his back door, knocked on the door, offered him the gift and apologized for anything he'd done wrong. He'd done nothing wrong. So he felt good. He was in the kitchen having a cup of tea, and this old bloke comes in with his gift unwrapped, and he's beaming from ear to ear, and he says, it's the nicest thing anyone's done for me. He said, everything is forgiven. I mean, I read so many times, especially all the mega rich people, like there's some mega rich people upstate from New York where the people have $20 billion houses or something, where, you know, that one group in one house in these fancy houses, their trash can was a few millimeters over to the other person's, and it begins with that. And then 5 years later, they're suing each other for hundreds of millions of dollars. And you talk about some people, they're putting on rock music all day and shining big lights onto the other people's house, and it's like these nightmares. You understand? From starting one small thing. John, it was amazing. That's intense. You know, your hubby says, you know, you're slurping your coffee, Mary. Oh, so sorry, darling, even when you're not. Right there. Not as passive aggressive. You take the blame. Wow, amazing. You've got to be courageous to do that. And see, the thing is, if you're in a victim relationship, that is not your response because you're already doing that. No, you've got to stand up for yourself and get the hell out of that demented man's life. That's different practice. This is an advanced practice. Only a self-confident person can do this. That's my point. Next one. This is now the closest to home. This is your beloved husband or your beloved children. Listen to it. When someone whom I've benefited and whom I've had great hopes. Whom do you have hopes for? Your children, isn't it? Do you have great hopes for your husband? No, I'm really serious now. Do you have hopes for your husband or your wife? Or is it just your children? Do you see what I'm saying? Do you have that for your partner? You have great hopes for your partner? Maybe you do. Maybe you've spent your life being a wife and you supported him in his studies and you've supported him working, doing the dishes and washing, looking after the kids while he goes up and gets his law degree. Now, that's true. You have great hopes. Gives me terrible harm. This happens all the time. And how are you going to see them? As my holy guru. I mean, these are advanced practices. You can't say they're not, you know. Don't just read them as cute religious words. These are intense, high-level practices. These teachings these teachings were kept secret. Atisha brought these types of teachings from Salimpa in Indonesia. They were kept secret. There was only Langri Tangpa when he wrote, no, who was it? Drom Tompa, his disciple, maybe this is Langri Tangpa, when they started making them public. And it makes sense. This is opposite to the world. It's completely opposite to the world, you know. It's craziness. But at least if we can read them, understand the logic of them, and aspire to be like this, nothing wrong, you know. So the next one is now, this is Tong. I think Tong Len came from this. That's my feeling. I can't say with certainty, but listen to it. In short, both directly and indirectly, I offer every happiness, mine, and benefit, all my good things, to all my mothers. I give away. Tonglen, give and take. I give to everybody all my good things, all my merit, all my happiness. And I'll secretly, this one's secret, excuse me, take upon myself all their harmful actions and suffering. So for some reason, this is the most heavy practice, but I don't know why, but for some reason, everybody in the West loves this practice. And it's so heavy duty. I don't know, maybe they don't understand it. Maybe they don't know what they're doing. I don't know. I mean, it's so heavy. So how you do it is, you know, you do it in meditation. Robina Rinpoche even says, it's so incredible, he even says you do this practice in the morning and you visualize yourself in the afternoon with a headache. And then you imagine in the meditation that when you breathe in, that's the taking, you breathe in your headache of the afternoon into you now. You practice even with yourself. You breathe, you happily take upon yourself that headache. And there's various ways of visualizing, but you can visualize it'll rocket your heart, your self-cherishing, and it smashes. It's like yucky smoke, and it smashes your self-cherishing. And then when you breathe out, you imagine giving to yourself in the afternoon, happy, all your happiness, all your joy, all your good things. Then you go through your friends. People do years of these retreats going through all the realms of existence, you know. It's an intense practice. So this is the thing, love and compassion. Compassion is, may you not suffer. Great compassion is, how can I do to help? And then this is like the bonus on the top. This is like the cherry on the top. You know what, honey? Give it to me. I can handle the suffering. That's Tonglen. So that's the most outrageous, like confident practice. Not self-pity, not like a martyr. We do this as martyrs, you know, and that's the nightmare in our relationships. That's totally disgusting. This is incredible. That's why I always tell, it's time to finish, I always end with this story. When we're just on this topic, I always end with this story. Harry. We know Harry, don't we? Harry comes here, and we call Santa Claus Father Christmas in Australia, except we've all become Americanized and we probably call him Santa now. He looks like Father Christmas. He's fat and jolly, isn't he? He's got a big beard. He's fat and jolly. And everybody who's ever known Harry thinks that they're his best friend. Because he's always lovely to everybody. Harry always sits at the very back of the teachings. You find Harry doing the dishes. You find Harry sweeping the floor. And Harry's a happy, jolly guy. Well, he's a yogi. Mary says his cave up in the mountains. Mary had a cave up there too. And they even say it's very funny. People go to see their caves. You know Mary's because it's got little curtains and cute little pink things. But Harry's is his bare cave. A great yogi. He did all those years. He was doing meditation like the yogis, meditating with no clothes, no. He's this amazing yogi, and he's doing Tonglen, obviously. So the story, and I asked him about it. He told me. And he told many people the story. Somebody was with him. I think the nun Venerable Sarah was with him. So years ago in Copan, must have been before mobiles, before cell phones, he was getting ready to go up to his cave. So you either walk the 10 days or you get the plane to Lukla, then you walk 3 days or something, you do like that. So he has his pack on his back and he goes. And then Lama Zopa Rinpoche had a dream. He said he had a dream in which Harry died. But Rinpoche doesn't sleep, so it can't be a dream. He's just being humble. It was clairvoyance, So he said, tell Harry not to go, but it was too late. And of course, they don't have mobiles, so he left. So he told Geshe Lama Kontrog, this amazing yogi who spent years up in those mountains, naked, no food, no sleep, meditating for years and years, living in Vajrayogini's pure land, as Lama Zopa said about him. He was at Kopan then. So he said, he told Geshe Lama Kontrog to pray for Harry. So the story goes, and Harry told the story, at some point, and he told a group of us when they were going up there, and he told where the point was that this happened. Because the normal path, and they're very treacherous, there'd been an avalanche or something, you had to take another extra treacherous, really narrow, very scary. I mean, the porters fall off regularly, so do the yaks. I nearly got knocked over by a yak when I went up there. The yak man told me off, getting in the way of his yak. Anyway, they're very treacherous. There's big fat mountains going down, very rocky. There's this very skinny path, really dangerous. And they're trudging up the hill. He's ahead, must be Sarah behind him. And he's got his pack on, probably 20 kilos, I don't know. And suddenly appears 3 Sherpas, 3 porters. And they carry like 40, 60 kilos on their backs, these little skinny boys with their flip-flops. And then when I had to go these treks, they asked me to lead a few. I led 3 of them. It was so intense. I've never done walking. I don't walk. I don't go up mountains. I don't go up hills. I tried to walk up and down to where that place is. Up here, we go walk up. What's that place? There's a hill nearby. And I'd try walk up there to get exercise. I was so neurotic about walking up the mountains. I was so worried because I'd never walk up. I don't even walk up hills. I walk on the flat, So I was promised I'd lead this trek all up to these mountains and up to Sherpa land, up to Lama Zopa's cave. So I'm so worried about it. And they said, you have to get these special shoes. I went to every shoe company on the planet online. You practically have to have a degree in shoes, all these fancy shoes with this and that. And they've got these necks on them. And they said, you've got to have all these with support and blah. I mean, they were just so ridiculous. I bought all these pair. I had to give them all away. They're horrible. And I finally bought this little minimalist pair of shoes, like just soft little shoes that were rock climbing. They were so delicious. And then I discovered all the Sherpas wear flip-flops, All the Westerners wear these fancy shoes, so fancy, cost $1,000, and they wear flip-flops with their 60-kilo packs. So there's these 3 Sherpas coming down, very quick, very sudden, and it's treacherous, And his first thought, he said, 3 of them, 1 of me, I'll step to the side. So my first point is this. Because we all have ego grasping, because we have fear, because we have attachment, and because we have self-cherishing, the normal behavior of even a nice person wouldn't be that. You can't, if you see someone play brilliant tennis, they've practiced for years. It just didn't come out of the blue. So if someone says that, which is against normal people's behavior, then you have to know they've practiced it for years. That's the proof he's meditated for years and he's achieved Tonglen. It is the proof. It's the proof. You can't pretend that. They were strangers. They weren't his children. He's not being a drama queen. Oh, I'm going to step to the side and let you go. You know, he did it automatically. The next second, he discovered how intense it was and how close it was. And he's got his back to the 1,000-foot drop, right? He said to himself, if they knock me, I won't hold on. And they knock him. They don't mean to. And he's falling. And his feet are on the ground and his pack is pulling him. And he said he had a psychic vision of the entire fall and he saw his body crash to the ground. And then, as he's falling, he feels the hands of Geshe Lama Konchog forcefully pushing him, and he reversed direction and fell onto the path, you know. Now, you can't make that up. Sarah saw it. You understand? She didn't see Geshe Lama Konchog, but she saw him reversing direction. You understand? Well, so that shows the power of the holy beings. That's their power. When you've achieved realizations, you can manifest your body wherever you damn well like to benefit others, but it shows Harry's merit. He got bucket loads of, that was bodhicitta like 1 billion times, you know, so powerful, he created the cause, have his life saved, what we call a miracle. You know? And that's Tonglen. And you can't just do that, you can't pretend. That is, he perfected that from years and years of meditation. You know? I love that story. So that's it. We finished there, okay? On a high note. So you think, may we be like that? And that's the point about having a teacher. They're showing you how to be, you know. They're showing you how to be. Lama Zopa is showing us how to be. There's Harry showing us how to be. There's this whole showing us how to be. Not go, oh, I can't do that. Yes, you can. One step at a time, you know. One step at a time. You take them as an example. And it gives you courage because you can see it's possible. That's the point. That's why it's so powerful to have a teacher, because they show you it's possible, not just in the sky, you know. So then you think, may I become like that? And may I never give up practicing, working on my mind, getting clarity, studying the teachings, understanding the delusions, distinguishing between those and the virtues, getting the bodhisattva path, getting bodhicitta. And then we didn't discuss emptiness at all, but never mind, it'll come. Later in the week we'll do it. Dong Chub Sem Chog, Rinpoche, Ma Ke Pa Nam Ke Yuchi, Ke Pa Nyam Pa Me Pa Yang, Gong Ne, Gondu, Kawa Shog. And may Lama Zopa come back very, very quickly. Show us his beam and his smile. Beam upon us as quickly as possible. That's it, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Zoom.
Venerable, we wanted to offer a Thanksgiving mandala.
Okay.
Shayla, could you please put screen share the prayers, and Lou will be offering. Lou was a sponsor for the retreat, so he's
Good.
going to be offering hers.
Okay. Come on then. So only the people who offer will prostrate. The ones who are serving don't prostrate. Because you're meant to be part of the center, just giving the hint. His should be prostrated. What's wrong? You can't prostrate? What's wrong with you? Because you haven't practiced. Well, you could practice. You could if you try. Lou. Go on then.
Oh, poor
Never
Lou.
mind. And all these old people. And you've got to start young. I started when I was 40. So I can still do them. My chiropractor was so impressed at my prostrations, he couldn't believe it. He says, you've got so much muscle, he said. Well, now I'm being proud, okay?
Saji
Perki Jokshin Metod, Trari Rablingji, Nidegen Hadi, Sangye Jindu, Mikte Olwak. Lou, offer that way, okay? Facing me. Don't panic. No one's behind you. Don't worry.
Yeah, take your time.
Do
Take
it.
your
Go
time.
on, keep
We have
going.
2 verses.
Interrupt the prayer. Nam tak jing la, chopa sho. We should know where the front, we should know where the top is. You should know where the top is, so you offer it the right way. You have to unpack it and learn that and then put a mark on it.
Okay.
Thank you. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamni.
We have one more verse. We have one more verse.
What?
We have one more verse.
Oh, go on then.
Okay.
Go on,
then-
say
Then
it.
this goes on the table.
Jetson Lam. No, you give it to. Oh, no, go. Do it. No, there. Jetson Lame Kutse Rabten Ching Nam Ka Chin Le Chok Chu Ge Padang Lozang Ten Pe Dran Me Sa Sung Gi Drawway Munsel Tag
We did it.
Negyochi. And then we think Buddha happily receives our offering. Iram Guru Ratnamandala Kam Niryatayami. Okay, that's it. That was the mandala plus representations of enlightened body, speech, and mind. Create the cause for us to achieve it. Very nice.